Have you ever wondered where the majority of police officers across the state of Indiana receive their training? Well, it's right here at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy in Plainfield, Indiana. I'm Sergeant Dave Burston, Public Information Officer for the Indiana State Police at the Indianapolis Post. And in this edition of the Indiana State Police Public Information Program, we're going to tell you all about the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, let you meet some of the people that are involved in the training of police officers, so you'll have a better understanding of what these officers go through before they come out in your neighborhood, in your cities. So stay tuned, we'll be right back, but first, please listen to these messages.
Must I, Amanda, take this guide to have and to hold, to go out with and make out with, to be together and sleep together, to go all the way, because they say I'll walk away, unless I do.
If you don't talk with your kids about sex, who will? Our free booklet can help.
Where's Michael?
National Guard duty.
Ah, bet he's just sandbagging.
I don't think so.
Sure he is. He left us with all the big fires to put out.
Over 52% of our military is made up of the National Guard and Reserve. They serve in times of war and in times of disaster. And the jobs they perform are hard enough, without you making it harder.
Well, let's hope he's ready for some late nights when he gets back.
Please support your employees in the National Guard and Reserve.
As you can see behind me, there is a basic law enforcement class in progress right now. The Indiana Law Enforcement Academy has a long history that began in 1969 with the first class. This was held at Indiana Central University, which is now the University of Indianapolis. In 1972, attendance at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy became mandatory and the location of training was changed to the Indiana University campus at Bloomington, Indiana. Training continued there until 1974, and then in 1975 began here in this present facility at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy in Plainfield, Indiana. Over the past several years, on average, over 500 police officers are trained yearly. This is in addition to dozens of town marshals, and all Indiana State Police recruit classes are held at this facility also. The person in charge of the facility, who has been associated with the Academy for over 20 years, is Mr. Charles Birch.
The Law Enforcement Training Board is a governing body for law enforcement training in the state of Indiana. That's comprised of 14 members made up of law enforcement officers and businessmen, attorneys, people from all walks of life. They're assisted by an advisory council made up of the SAC of the Indianapolis office of the FBI, the Department of Natural Resources Enforcement Division, member of theology, and so forth. The group appoints, the Law Enforcement Training Board selects and appoints an executive director, the position that I hold. And that executive director, then the appointment of that executive director has to be approved by the governor's office. The governor's office signs off on that, and then the executive director of the board serves a 4-year term. And his job is to administer this academy, the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy at Plainfield, and to perform the other functions that are directed to him or toward him by the Law Enforcement Training Board. The board governs 5 academies in the state of Indiana. There is the Indiana State Police Academy, which utilizes this facility and provides its own staff, largely. There is an academy at Fort Wayne Police Department. There is an academy at the Indianapolis Police Department. And those 3 academies train the people that are going to later work for those departments. It's a part of their selection process, and it's part of the training process. Then there is a cadet academy down on the campus of IU at Bloomington, and those people are students who are going through school in any one of a number of majors. It doesn't have to be a criminal justice major, but any major. And then when they complete the academy, they stay on campus between their sophomore and junior years and complete an academy down there. And when that academy is completed, their last 2 years, then they work as a police officer on campus. Upon graduation, they have their bachelor's degree and their law enforcement certification. The Indiana Law Enforcement Academy is the 5th academy here of the 5 in the state. And we provide basic training, 4 basic training classes a year of 480 hours each, 12 weeks. And then we provide an ongoing program of in-service training, communications officers, burglary investigation, photography, things of that nature. We also must train new chiefs of police within 6 months of their appointment as chief of police, and must train all jail officers within 1 year of their appointment as a jail officer. To back up a bit, any law enforcement officer appointed as a law enforcement officer in the state of Indiana must complete basic training within 1 year of their appointment. And if they don't do that, they lose their arrest powers. Additionally, each law enforcement officer in the state of Indiana must obtain 16 hours of in-service training each year, and failure to obtain that training requires then that they the statute says that they shall go off the payroll. That was not the intent of the board. The board's intent is that they no longer function as a law enforcement officer until they make up the training that they're deficient. If they don't have 16 hours, they only have 14 hours, that they be put in a non-enforcement capacity, say working records or radio, something like that, until they've made up the 2 hours that they're deficient. The hazard in not obtaining the training is that if they participate in a major case when they aren't up to date on their training, that entire case could be jeopardized because they are not truly to be on the law enforcement rolls. I think most people do not really know that there is an academy here, that there is a mandatory training program for law enforcement officers in the state, or they know that there is one, but it's to them somewhat of a mystery as to where it takes place and what it involves. One of the things that we encourage is civic organizations to bring groups here and visit at the academy, legislators, anyone, to see what we do here, to come and visit the academy, see our mission of providing training, and to see what a fine facility it really is.
Lieutenant Randy Davis is the academy's legendary drill instructor and the director of firearms training. Lieutenant Davis has trained well over 15,000 police officers in his career, and some of their most vivid memories of the academy is from their time spent with Lieutenant Davis.
Myself personally, I was one of the first 2 instructors the Academy hired full-time, and I started with the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy in November 1972 when the Academy was operating temporarily on the Indiana University campus in Bloomington. We operated down there through 72, 73, and into 74. This facility was opened up in January 75, where the course changed from a 6-week basic program to a 10-week, and then I think about 82 or 83 it jumped up to 12 weeks. And it was much anticipation was in the training staff's minds to come up here and not be in a college setting to train the officers. And we found out over the years from having trained at Bloomington, a lot of Vietnam veterans were coming in, so we had some good disciplinary control in the class when 75–85% of them were veterans. We're finding now that maybe 25%, if we're lucky, the officers coming into law enforcement are prior military. So they have not been exposed to and been required to establish that internal discipline, if you will, that somebody just naturally learns when they go through a basic training program with one of the branches of the service. So when they come here to the academy for the very first day, it's a very busy day for them. They get checked in, they get their photograph taken, they get their equipment issued to quartermaster, they change clothes, get their stuff moved into the room, come down and go through what we call a PT assessment. They get their height, their weight checked, body fat, blood pressure. They come in for a step test to see how well their heart rate recovers after 3 minutes of that activity. They go through a bench press event, a sit and reach event, sit-ups, push-ups, mile-and-a-half run. And this is all generally, we attempt to accomplish that in the morning before noon. It's rather ambitious. Sometimes we make it, sometimes we don't. But once that's over with, and they have taken the noon meal, they come back into the classroom, they get seat assignments, and then we take them in the gymnasium, and they learn how to line up in what we call our academy formation. And this is structured very much like military. They learn to stand in a single file line, learn the positions of attention. The prior militaries adapt to it very easily. Some of the youngsters that come in that have never been subjected to this, it's culture shock. They may not like it. Some of them even think about leaving the first night. But the prior militaries usually calm them down in the evening hours, and they get settled in. But the first week is busy. They get adjusted to the regimentation, the punctuality, the reliability. Obviously, these are character traits that are going to carry over into their career when they get back home. So these are things that we look for in their behavior, and we also advise them that they are mandated by law to be here for 480 hours. We have a responsibility to live up to that state training statute. So consequently, they get adjusted to that, and the first couple of weeks are academic. One activity we have the officers participate in the first week here is what we call public speaking. They get up and talk about themselves for about a minute and a half, and it kind of breaks down the barriers. They see what the backgrounds are of their classmates. Also gives the staff a chance to see just what kind of a makeup we have in a basic class, and it's surprising some of the expertise, the talent, the experience that we have. And once this is undergone, they get into their basic police subjects. They get introduced to criminal law, constitutional law in week 2, and a lot of classroom activities those first 3 or 4 weeks in here. And they always look forward to the hands-on activities when we get into what we call our practical skills, or I call them a skill week. They're going to be in emergency vehicle operation course training we call EVOC. And the class is divided into groups of 4. So while 1/4 of the class is in the EVOC training, the other is in the firearms training. And then another portion of them are in defensive tactics training. And the others are going through first responder and maybe DWI or HGN, horizontal gaze nystagmus training for traffic enforcement for detecting drunk drivers. And after they go through a week of that, they'll come back in the classroom. And then the next skill week, they rotate. And they may leave the EVOC training and go to firearms. Firearms will go to DTs. DTs will come in and go to first responder training. So this is a cycle that's repeated 4 times up into graduation, with an academic week laced in between those skill weeks when they split out of the classroom and get into some hands-on activity. And this will take them all the way up to week 12, graduation week. And they have an activity called Course Practicum, where we bring in veteran police officers. Not uncommon, we'll have 275 years of total experience among these veteran police officers. And we'll set up scenarios, 8 different locations where they'll be making vehicle stops. They'll go with the FOP, intervene and contact the bartender over some kind of a problem with the patrons. The cottage over here by the little lake, that is a domestic setting where they're just contacting the complainant over loud screams coming out of that cottage. We set up a motel scenario in one of the dorm rooms on the 2nd floor, and one of the lounges are converted over into a like a little village pantry. We affectionately call it a little stop and rob, and they'll contact the owner there having some kind of a problem with customers, or he thinks they're stealing. And this is sequenced in the curriculum just before graduation, because allegedly they should have mastered and come up with enough we hope comprehension of what they were here for, to apply the laws, the elements of crimes, the tactical positioning, interview techniques, stopping vehicles. If they have to arrest somebody, the defensive tactics techniques should begin to show as far as being able to handcuff somebody, maybe use a control technique to bring them under control, move them out of the way, get them down on the ground, handcuff them, things like this. And I really have a lot of admiration for these veteran police officers who come in and do this, because they're literally sacrificing their bodies for these young and in most cases inexperienced officers to learn what they need to do, and if they do it wrong they are critiqued, and if they do it right you kind of pat them on the head and let them know that that was a good job.
Oh, this is racial! This is strictly racial! Hey, you, pull over!
Uh-oh, Vince, they're really cracking down on safety belts these days.
What's up, officer?
I'm giving you a ticket for committing an 811.
Safety belt violation.
Compliments of Barney Fife.
We never wear safety belts. We're dummies.
Weisenheimers.
He gave us a ticket.
Man's got to do what he's got to
do. Chemistry class led me to a life of crime. I catch murderers, rapists, and thieves with a microscope. Help your daughter become a scientist. Instead of a tea set, get her a chemistry set. Look at the boring job I got from being a science nerd. Expect the best from a girl. That's what you'll get.
In America, you are not required to offer food to the hungry or shelter to the homeless. There is no ordinance forcing you to visit the lonely. In fact, nowhere in the Constitution does it say you have to provide anything for anybody. Thank you for all you've given. Imagine what more could do.
In our society, police officers are held to a higher standard as the people we entrust to uphold the law. When training new police officers, one of the goals of the Academy is to instill strong values. As the basic course commander, this responsibility rests on the shoulders of Captain Dave Yance. His experience as a high school teacher and 12 years with the Hendricks County Sheriff's Department, as well as being involved in DARE officer training, makes him well aware of the importance of strong values for today's police officers.
In talking to counterparts of mine in other parts of the country in terms of how they have upgraded or updated their basic course curriculums, one reoccurring theme that I kept hearing was the process of instilling values into their basic course curriculum. That we are seeing a young person who comes to the Academy of a generation where perhaps maybe they did not sit down together as a family and eat supper, that they were a lot of TV time in their spare hours outside of school, and that some of the basic values that my generation grew up with, that perhaps now we are seeing a young person who does not have these values early on in their development. So as a result, other academies and this academy have decided that we need to instill values into our basic course curriculum. By values, I'm talking about such things as integrity. In other words, your word is your bond. Say what you mean and mean what you say and do what you're going to say. Secondly, we're trying to instill into our basic course officers the value of caring, that to treat people with dignity and respect. That a law enforcement officer comes into contact with a wide spectrum of all types of people, and oftentimes we see people not at their best. But it's important to always remember that all human life has dignity, and to approach their work and to approach people in their work with that value in mind. Thirdly, we want them to be committed. Commitment to the mission of the training that we're doing here at the Academy, and to stay focused in accomplishing that mission. We're also wanting them to understand the concept of teamwork, that success is more easily attained when you have the empowerment of a group that is striving towards a given end. And then fourthly, we want them to be competent. We want them to know their job, know how to do their job well, and even if that means it may take longer to do a certain task, that it's a very important value to do the job in the way that is expected, as opposed to perhaps maybe how to take shortcuts. Having the values that we teach and role model to them here at the Academy, the benefit of having seen it demonstrated and having seen and heard the values talked about and discussed, we're hoping that they will then take those values that have been imparted to them out into the real world and then actually practice them on a day-to-day basis.
Through these portals pass the best trained police officers in the world. The success of our state depends on our ability to adapt and change. The Academy is planning for the future to keep up with those changes. Jim White, a 20-year veteran of the Indiana State Police, now serves as the Deputy Director of the Academy. One of Jim's primary roles at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy is planning for the future.
I think it's very important. My father was a police officer for 20 years. I don't think the basics of law enforcement have changed since he was a police officer and I spent my 20 years as a state police officer. I mean, you have to know the law, and you have to know the tools of your trade. But policing, because society has changed so much, has had to change. Community policing is nothing more than what my father used to do as a police officer. He was involved with the people that he policed. And we need to get back to those basics. We need to interact with our communities. We need to be more responsive to our communities. You know, one of the things was, for a long, long time, it was the police versus the citizens. It was a we versus them attitude. And we need to get away from that. We work for the citizens, and the citizens are our clients, and we have to be responsive to our clients' needs. And what we need to do is better interact with those folks. And that's all community policing is, interaction among the citizens and the police. I think that the important thing to remember is that the Academy's been here for 27 years, and it's done, a good job in the 27 years that it's been around. But we've reached the point now that we need to move from where we are and into the future. There's a lot of changes that are taking place. I mean, we're looking at the curriculum. We're going to change the curriculum. What we're trying to do is be more responsive to the needs of the law enforcement community and provide them with better people who graduate from the Academy. We want those people to be prepared to go out and assume a role in law enforcement. So we're changing the curriculum around. We're trying to get the kids, and I call them kids because I'm a lot older than they are, more time behind the wheel in EVOC. We're trying to make some changes, and we think that the changes will come to fruition in terms of the firearms program by making it more realistic. Not only will we teach them the basics, but we'll take them beyond the basics and get them into combat type shooting. We'll get them into situations that they may run into out in the field. Another thing that we're excited about, and is kind of a gigantic leap forward, is the domestic violence training that we're going to provide. We're in concert right now with the Indiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence. What we're going to do is take Mike McCarty, a member of our staff, and we'll devote him 70% of his time to domestic violence training. He'll not only present it here at the Academy, but he'll take it around throughout the state and present that kind of training. As a result of that, the Indiana Coalition for Domestic Violence will allow us to hire a new officer here at the Academy. So we're doing a lot of neat things. For the first time in our history, we have a strategic plan. And in that strategic plan, we're looking about 7 years out, and there's a lot of neat things that we want to do. We want to build a new facility. We refer to it as a conference center, but in fact, it'll be a whole new Academy building. We hope that it will house 300 people. It'll have dormitory space for all 300 people there. It'll be state-of-the-art. We want to have what we would call about a 400 to a 500 person auditorium that we could divide that into rooms to conduct training there. And of course, we'd have the associated classrooms. Another project that we need to work on is our EVOC track. Now, EVOC, Emergency Vehicle Operation Course. It's approximately 18 years old. It's on the northwest side of the Academy complex here. It's an outstanding course. It's the best one in Indiana, but we need to do some work to it. We need to update it. We need to make it more, I guess, relevant to the city officers. We need to put a city grid, city intersections in out there. We need to have some gravel roads out there, particularly for our officers who work the rural areas, the conservation officers, the sheriff's deputies, and the state police officers. We hope to build an interstate ramp out there which will simulate an interstate for the state police officers and the county officers, and a lot of the metro officers have the interstates running through their communities. So we need to build one of those out there. We need to put traffic signals out there. We envision that project costing us somewhere between $3 to $3.5 million. But that's something we need to do. Right now we're getting ready to work on our firing range and renovate the firing range. That's about a $3.3 million project that we're working on out there. It'll be state-of-the-art, turning targets, computerized scoring. So there are a lot of neat things that are going on at the Academy right now. As the executive director and I like to kid, we think the planets are in alignment right now. Everything is just right for us to make some gigantic strides forward. I think the most important thing, though, that we're trying to do is turn out the best possible police officer or sheriff's deputy or conservation officer or state police officer we can for the citizens of Indiana. You know, we're a real bargain. Our current budget is approximately $3.2 million. If we had $1 for every Hoosier citizen at $5.5 million, we could do some wonderful things. We do some wonderful things now, and the future looks bright for the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. There's a lot of neat things on the horizon with the new conference center that we want, the renovation of the firing range, the renovation of the EVOC track, a lot of neat things going on, the changes in the curriculum, a lot of specialized courses that we're offering here. We think we're going to the forefront, and based on what we're doing now and basing our training on values, we think we're doing what's right for policing in Indiana. You know, community policing and values are the things that you hear about all the time as you look in the media. The Indiana Law Enforcement Academy has been doing these for a long, long time, and now all we're doing is doing them better. And we're excited about the future, and we think the future is bright for the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy.
Darrell Bishop is angry and taking to the street again tonight to take it back from pushers and gangs and make it safe for his 4-year-old. Whose side are you on? Darrell is a mad dad, family men who work with local authorities to keep their neighborhoods safe. Not everyone has to take to the streets, but everyone can take a step to help kids. Call us. We're fighting for the children. Whose side are you on?
They want to get me, I'm going to be ready to get them.
They just shoot. They don't care who gets in the way.
I want to be respected. This gets me respect, know what I'm saying?
I'm afraid to walk to school, okay?
Yeah, I might die. Everybody dies.
Kids shooting, kids getting shot. They're all victims of gun violence. The killing won't stop unless you help stop it. Call 1-800-WE-PREVENT for free information. Not one more lost life. Not one more grieving family. Not one more.
I don't want to die.
What are you eating?
Pizza.
What kind of pizza?
Plain cheese.
And how are you eating it?
I'm eating it on the side. Because...
Hey, you lost your 2 front teeth.
No, I didn't.
What do you want for Christmas?
I don't know.
If you don't stop someone from driving drunk, who will?
My 2 front teeth.
Do whatever it takes.
Picasso painted the old guitarist during a period of depression that lasted 4 years, his blue period. Today, with new discoveries, 80% of depressive disorders are being successfully treated, giving hope to millions that maybe now nobody has to have a blue period.
We certainly hope you enjoyed this edition of the Indiana State Police Public Information Program, especially the opportunity to learn about the training that's provided for people that want to be police officers in the state of Indiana. If you'd like to learn more about the training provided at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, take a look on the internet at their website as listed on the screen, or call their phone number also listed. Until next time, when you're driving around the state of Indiana, we hope that you remember to buckle up. The life you save may be your own or that of somebody you love. Take care. Bye-bye.
In America, you are not required to offer food to the hungry or shelter to the homeless. There is no ordinance for